I'm recording.
All right, I just started recording as well. So yeah, so
Yeah.
Yves and I got it both recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can always share for the group.
So just quickly, is there any way for me to contact Thomas, Dominic, any
Yes.
group?
So, and you do in the chat. If you should be able to, oh no, it's only everyone now. But yeah, that would be the place, or you can ping him on Telegram.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys are recording, so I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, we should be good. Man, I love this group. So many amazing, just like, it's so cool. It's so cool.
Oh, geez.
Well, do you want to,
Okay, so-
does somebody want to start? Because I'm guessing you actually have platforms that you want to run on.
Sure.
I mean-
So I'm running to be elected, and I'm John. I'm the creator of Boyd, which is one of the longest running EOS projects that's still active. And recently, and also I was a major developer for Vigor, and recently I released EOSpower.io. And I'm a builder, I'm a full stack developer, I'm very practical. So you'll actually see me deliver on products as opposed to just ideas. And if I am elected, most of the funding would go to extending EOSpowerup.io, making it, adding functionality, marketing, making it more useful for the community. And a portion of the funds would also go to Gray Mass as well, because I've actually been leveraging their technology a lot. And I think the work they're building is probably the most important work in the entire ecosystem. So.
Can you give an idea of what the split would be?
Basically,
give or take $11,000.
Right. Probably 10 to 20% I would donate to Gray Mass.
So you'd send about $1,000 or $2,000 to Gray Mass, and you'd keep the $8,000 to put in the pool so that PowerUp is free for users, or for you, for your salary or whoever's salary at Boyd, in order to
It's for
building.
mostly probably 5 to 10% would go into the free PowerUp pool, or just like, server costs and things like that. And the rest of the budget would go to my time, man hours, because I do all the development myself. I don't have to hire any outside work, so I can work very efficiently. And I wrote a lot about, my plans for how to extend the platform, but I can repeat it here if you guys are interested.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that the PowerUp model, and I think it's one of the most important things for usability. And I think usability is the most important thing for adoption. And I think the work you're doing is fantastic. So I would either want to vote for you or someone who is going to replicate similar focuses that you've just mentioned. Like, absolutely, Gray Mass deserves a ton of recognition right now. I think they're single-handedly in many ways keeping the usability of EOS alive, which is keeping EOS alive. I'd love to hear, Yves, your thoughts. You mentioned a little bit about a platform that you're working on. Could you go next?
Sure. So we would take the 1,000, or I would take the 1,000 EOS and put it in the crowdfunding platform, which would be used as matching funds. So essentially the community would decide where those funds go. And then through the quadratic funding mechanism, it would be matched. So essentially that 1,000 EOS would be added to the matching pool. What I would do on top of that is then EOS Nation would match an extra 1,000 EOS. And so I would double it up to 2,000 EOS, which would add, give or take, $22,000 right now at current price that would go in the matching pool for round one. And in terms of who it goes to, that's to the community to decide through the actual platform itself.
What's the status of the platform?
We will be releasing the static front page kind of branding, naming in likely next Friday, but let's say 10 days. Because we have that already up. It's already, a lot of it has already been developed. The first round is still on track to be at the end of the summer. So July, August, for the actual website to be up so that you can create your account, so that you can start essentially setting up everything. If you have a project, for example, John, you wanted to put your thing and actually go put EOSpowerup on there, you'd be able to start doing that in July or August. With the actual funding round, If you're aware of how it works, it's a 3-month period per round, but the actual funding portion is a 2-week period within that 3-month period. That would occur beginning of September, so that the funds would be distributed by ideally beginning or end of September. And we're still working on that. That would be for round 1, so that we'd be able to actually get 2 rounds in by the end of this year.
That's awesome. I'm curious, have you talked to Kevin Owaki at all at Gitcoin? Have you modeled anything after what they've learned?
We've been working with them for over a year. Yes.
Awesome. Figured as
so
well.
it is a replica of Gitcoin, obviously much easier because we don't have gas fees.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. So smart contracts are obviously much easier. One of the big things that's I guess something that delayed the process is, how does this work from a legal perspective? So we actually have a company that's created simply for this. We are not custodian of funds. We do not require an MSB license, that type of thing. And so all that part needed to be settled in beforehand in order for us to receive the Block 1 grant, which now we have, which is solely for the development aspect. And then Block 1 has agreed to, or is committing to be, one of the first matching folks. Again, EOS Nation will match. If I win this, then I would put the extra 1,000 EOS and I will double it up to 2,000 EOS. And we're also working with other matching partners right now, which would be large entities. The reason why the matching partners need to be large entities is because we cannot be custodian of funds. So essentially the funds can't be held prior to the matching process. So the funds need to be held by the actual matching partners until the very last minute, where then they send it to a contract and it gets sent out automatically. That way we're not custodians. That way they hold on to their own funds and don't trust a third party. And essentially the function that we provide is then the whether or not the funds should be matched, because there's 3 scenarios by which funds would not be matched. So when you donate directly, so let's say, John, you go put up your project in the crowdfunding platform and Luke wants to give you EOS right away, he can do so. We essentially facilitate the process. There's no KYC, there's nothing, goes directly to you, regardless of whether or not you do something in the end. The matching process at the end then goes through a governance process where we determine whether or not there was a civil attack, whether or not there was collusion, and whether or not it meets the definitions of a public good. If those 3 criteria are set, then we essentially match the funds from the matching partners, leveraging the quadratic funding, the quadratic formula, which is basically just the algorithm. We don't intervene in that. It's automatic process.
That's awesome. It's funny. I remember first meeting Kevin in Denver, like a long time ago. I was at a conference and he was kind of like heckling me a little bit about EOS. It was way back in the day. And then we afterwards, he's like, all right, I liked your answers. Actually, we kept the conversation going and we talked for like hours. And then we started DMing and building a relationship on Twitter after that. And I've seen him at other conferences. So, and then I remember a while back, he started doing, trying to bring people together to be like, let's understand each other, EOS and Ethereum, as opposed to like, we're the Ethereum killer, or like EOS is a scam. It was like so beautiful. So I'm so encouraged.
Anti-tribalism. It's awesome.
Yes.
Not everybody is at Gitcoin and not everybody is in that realm, but he himself is all about open source OSS, and then basically just funding developers regardless of where they're building.
I love it.
So he's been really key ally so that we essentially replicate their process. We've got a couple of things. So we're starting off with 2 years worth of their work, right? So they started off, they're in their 9th round now. They didn't have Sybil resistance at first. They didn't have trust score at first, their trademark trust score. We're starting off with a lot of those things already. So we're starting off essentially in round 10 of their process. And so it should be a much smoother, much flow from the onset.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What are you, how about you, Luke? How did you get to round number 2?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it probably isn't ideal. It was probably more reputational, just, projects I've been involved in, being involved with trying to make, a focus on usability with the FIO protocol. So I'm the managing director for the FIO protocol, working to create human readable addresses for all cryptocurrency, kind of like you were saying, just to get past the crypto tribalism. And EOS.io is the best technology stack performance wise, especially at the time, in 2018 to be able to pull something like that off. And so I'm just was asked to participate by a number of people that are part of the EOS community. And I've got a lot of other responsibilities, but I'm deeply committed to this community. And it's been discouraging and frustrating to see so many great people, so many friends of mine, so many great projects basically die on the vine. And so I see this as extremely encouraging for the potential for the EOS community to come out in their own right, outside of, you know, the shadow of Block One. So I'm a communicator, coordinator of consensus in some way, as far as like getting people to come to an agreement on things. I would be less as focused as the two examples we just got, as far as already having in mind exactly intentionally what my funds would be going towards, as far as the responsibility as a steward for those funds. But I would be doing a similar process of coming to consensus. And based on what you guys just talked about, you know, yeah, I think that's phenomenal. Currently, I would take my vote for this call to Eves, because I think, John, you would probably end up potentially getting, I mean, EOS Power Up is a no-brainer, and Gray Mass, for example, is a no-brainer to me that the community would pick. So I think you would get your goals, as well as promoting this platform and even increasing its abilities as far as the crowdfunding. So as far as this round, I probably am going to use my vote for either one of you guys on the call, but let's hear for Han next, if he's got something else that might sway my perspective on that.
Actually, I was almost throwing my towel about being a BP in EOS until when I saw Dan leaving. I was like, what the fuck is happening? He betrayed us. Such an asshole. That was my initial feeling. But then seeing him coming back as an individual leader, and I directly talking to him, I felt like, he's not leftist, and it's actually one of the best news that EOS have ever seen in the whole history. So I ended up reading his book, and I got goosebumps in my whole body, because it's such a fundamental, profound. It has such a profound implication in not only for crypto governance, history of the crypto governance, but also for society at large. So once it ending up successful, beginning from governance of EOS mainnet, it could be applied in other chains, but also in real world politics. That's how I saw it. So somehow it's really coincidental how I ended up becoming one of the Genesis members. So with which I feel so grateful. And then helping Thomas, even doing this alpha test, the mock election in the first round, it was so the experience going through this process is already very inspiring, because it's not just voting some random people that I saw on TV or anything like that, but then I directly ask questions and build a connection, and relationship is formed. The four of us ended up forming a Telegram group. So if they have some idea, they're gonna contact me because I'm representing them. It's changing the game, literally.
That is awesome. That is very cool.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's such an experience. It's way better than I have imagined, first-handedly experiencing all this. And then seeing how things are unfolding in Korea and in EOS, like including the yesterday's announcement, the day before's announcements about bullish. In Korea, Upbit, they are coming from very positive angle, casting their votes, delegating to Korea Token Holders Association. And I thought, I don't know, something is about to happen from EOS, and I don't know. So this Eden will be very important, not only for EOS, but also for crypto space as a whole, and for normal world. But because, for example, in the first round, I was talking about how I could integrate Eden and local Korean version of Eden community, and how I could connect it with local Korean real city government, and how I could connect it to real Korean political parties, because Korea also, just like in the US, is a very much bipartisan, and in most of their internal governance is not very clear. It's not democratic at all, just like the US. So it resonated with me so much, the origination of Dan's idea. And somehow I have lots of connection and touch points in the Korean parliament. and government. And being that Korean government just launched a vaccine passport project on EOS.io, although they don't say it, and I'm part of the team. It's official. Korean government.
This is being recorded. You do realize this, and it'll be out on IPFS, right? I don't want you to.
Oh my God, I'm not supposed to say this publicly. That is recorded, but then I don't know. I will stop here. So there's lots of government projects that's run on EOS.io. They don't say it. I cannot name them, but it's happening. So somehow, I think they will ending up hashing their data on EOS mainnet. I see it coming. So it's being Korea representing at least 10%, even 20% of the whole network. Building EOS Eden community in Korea is very important. So that's where I'm going.
Man, this is an awesome group. I just thank you all of you guys, like just the commitment. And you know, Han and I remember hanging out at Burning Man, talking about some of this stuff early on, you know, and the work we try to do to, you know, get some kind of foundation going. And Eves, it goes without saying what you've been doing from day one to build community, build consensus, you know, try to get the worker proposal system. That was another question I had in terms of your crowdfunding platform. Is it controversial to compare it in any way to the WPS we never got, or how does it relate to WPS?
It's a good question. I see Eden more as the WPS that I envisioned at the beginning, because then, so the problem with the WPS was, how do you determine who gets funding? Well, essentially that's what Eden does. Eden is a WPS determining who gets funding. And the level at which people are funded is far greater than what the crowdfunding platform can achieve. Even if we look at Gitcoin in their 9th iteration, I believe the 8th iteration was $500,000 matching. And that's in their 8th iteration. Now they're working on their 9th. So it's completely different style. So the crowdfunding platform is a mini WPS in a way for cash injection for particular projects, whereas Eden is more of an ongoing WPS for large things that require ongoing funding. And I think that's where they complement each other. One big difference as well with what we propose compared to what now is out with the crowdfunding platform is it has block one support. So whatever it is we built, we wanted that the largest stakeholder be a part of somehow. And because they came out against the first one originally, essentially as not as block one, but as individuals, we wanted to work with something that wouldn't essentially take out the largest stakeholder from the onset. And with Eden and this crowdfunding platform, we essentially now have both. We've got the short-term cash injection for specific projects that actually leverages and amplifies small token holders much more. So we, like, one of our largest communities is in Nigeria. So we've got tons and tons and tons of people. They might only be able to donate, let's say 0.5 EOS or 0.1 EOS. The platform will actually allow for that, and their matching will be sometimes 300, 400, 500%, depending on what the matching pool is, because it's the power of numbers. They have money, you'd be able to actually get way more matching than one project who has one large donor. And that's where the power of the crowdfunding quadratic formula comes in. It not only funds, but it also leverages and I guess amplifies community, actual people. So EOS Venezuela, the marketplace, they're the ideal candidates for that type of stuff. They'd easily be able to get, let's say 1,000 people will come in, give 0.1 EOS, that 0.1 EOS times 1,000, they only accumulate 100 EOS, but because it came from 1,000 people, they might get 10,000 EOS in matching. Whereas Luke might have one project get 100 EOS, but only from one donor, he might get 10 EOS in matching.
That's awesome.
What's exciting, what's exciting to me about Eden and this crowdfunding platform is we're turning it more, we're turning EOS overall, and we're changing the image into something that's more of a meritocracy as opposed to kind of a laissez-faire plutocracy, right? So as a person building on EOS, when I built EOS Power Up and I see, you know, these new systems coming on board, I'm like, okay, I built something that people like and I can monetize it because they like it, not because I know the right people or I got the right donors or whatever. So if we continue down this path, we're going to attract people that love to build value and love to build communities. And I think that's like really, that's extremely powerful.
So I don't know how much time we have left here. Probably we're getting down to the wire here. So
I've got a proposal.
What's that?
So if I go forward, we take the 1,000 EOS and we double it. What if I combine both proposals, John's proposal and my proposal? We take the 1,000 EOS that we were going to donate to the matching pool anyways, and the second 1,000 EOS, which we would match, we break it down in what you proposed, John, which would be 20% to gray mass, 5% to free transactions, and 75% to fund your team. So you would get, so if I win in the end and we're able to actually get the 1,000 EOS, we double it to 2,000, 1,000 goes in the matching pool and 1,000 goes to the breakdown that you provided.
Sure. I mean, I think that's a very juicy proposal. The only, and I would Eden and funding a community built project that's unrelated to anything, you know, funded by Block One or a block producer or anything like that. So, and the idea that, you know, if I was funded today, I could drop everything I'm building and focus on adding functionality to EOS Power Up. We could put out an article next week, you know, Eden funds a community project. Here's the new features that have been funded by the community. Whereas if you put this money into the community crowdfunding pool, it's just a bucket in the ocean, right? It's like, it's less.
No, you would get the funding
juicy.
right away as well. You would get your funding as quickly, right? So let's say I do win and that there's 1,000 EOS. The 1,000 EOS I get today or tomorrow, whenever, I just send you 1,000 EOS right away in the break, and then we break it down in what you suggested. The 1,000 EOS that we match then just gets matched in a couple of months when the platform's live. That would be the delta. The delta is that there's 1,000 EOS more in the pool if I proceed.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. My understanding was that you were proposing that I would get funded once the platform was live, but if you're going to go ahead and fund me immediately,
essentially, I would take the 1,000 EOS, send you 750 or 800. You would put, I guess, 50 EOS in the transaction pool, and then send 200 EOS to Greymass. So I would take the 1,000 EOS that I receive and essentially send it out right away as you suggest, and still match the 1,000 EOS in the end, which would come from my own pocket.
I think you've made an offer that I cannot refuse.
And this is, I think, one of the things that I love and respect the most about Yves is he's very, very good at that. And that's how he comes to getting consensus, is he comes up with win-win situations, even in, you know, situations where those sometimes don't seem possible, or there's cultural dynamics that make that difficult, or and. And so I'm saying I'm going to propose that we put forth Yves, and as far as like your influence on everything you mentioned that I think is extremely important and valuable, my perception is Yves is someone that's going to honor that entirely, like, because he does understand the importance of the actual people building real things on the chain as that relates to the Korean community, as that relates to everything you just mentioned. And I think that he's someone that would find consensus to say, hey, Han, we're going to make these decisions. How will these impact the major projects that you've maybe not supposed to mention, and we'll pretend you didn't mention, but that's my perception. So that's why I would propose that we put Yves forward as for this round.
I think so. In terms of how you use the 1,000 use, I think it is a good way. I mean, I never thought about how I'm going to use that 1,000, and I think it is way more impactful at the moment to be spent on, you know, EOS Power Up, or like, you know, the crowdfunding platform. And if Yves and John's agrees to it, I have no objection. My point is not about being elected. I just enjoy the conversation and enjoying the whole process. This is my intention this time. So how we can make this moment some sort of celebration, how we can make this meaningful. And I think, you know, one of the player in the ecosystem who's been suffered the most is debt side, in my view. So I think that hasn't been really, you know, there's many players who already left, and then dApps hasn't been really appreciated in the community too much. So I think how we frame it, how we gonna end up proceeding to the next round. So given that John and Eve agree, how does money will be spent? I'm here. So my thinking is it would be very good signal from the outside that John, who's been contributing from the in the ecosystem from the very beginning, is a longest surviving dApp CEO. I think it is very good to see for the community someone like John to be advancing to the leading position. Is my thinking at the moment. Because Eve, you already have a lot of leadership in the community.
So how can we empower you, John, so that you win the next round? The next round's the last one.
Yeah.
So that you actually get the 1,000 EOS in the end.
One of the
You're
potential,
muted. You're muted, John.
This hasn't been talked about much, but the potential to say, like, this group, including, like you said, Eves, who has a lot of leadership, vouched for John to basically say, I don't care who's in the next round, John should win. That's why I gave up my potential, because otherwise,
Yeah,
the chance I could have won. That would be the narrative.
I like the optics that it's like, this is just a guy from the community that got voted up all the way through. It's not an established leader that everyone already trusts and looks up to. So I like that aspect of voting me forward. And there's nothing to stop Eve from doing the matching as well, right? So it's really just kind of, we could do either or.
And how are you going to convince the other 4 people?
I think the conversation.
Are you going to juice in the pot? Are you going, like, how are you going to do this going next round? So this is in our last round. That's how this started, and that's how they put me forward.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do the next round to convince the other 3 people so that, I mean, our best chances are that I can match and that you can also get the 1,000 EOS?
I mean, if the solution to moving through the ranks in Eden is just like constantly adding juice to the pot, like just like adding more money, like I'm just going to throw more money at this until I get voted all the way to the top, then that's a problem. So, I mean, we've had a very solid conversation here. We're all on the same page. We actually have not, like, everything we're saying, everyone already knows, right? So it's kind of like, I'm just going to say everything that I've said here. Everyone's already familiar, trust me, and is familiar with the things I've built. There's no need for me to add anything else. I've already put in so much sweat equity, more than probably just about anyone else who's building dApps on EOS. So
I'll vote for you. And then you got to go convince the next round that you should get those funds.
Yeah, I mean, I think the optics are actually pretty good. Like I said, John, this is the first time you and I have met, but we've both been in the community for a long time. So I do kind of like that idea of someone rising up and winning, and everyone's like, who's this? Oh, EOS Power Up. I know what that is. Oh,
But
I never met the guy.
round,
I never saw the guy who did it. Like, I think
in the next round, that won't be as much of an advantage, right? Because in the next round, you're going to get 3 other people like you.
Yeah.
So that will no longer be a selling point.
Well, I mean, I would argue, from my perspective, and this is what I would encourage you to say, John, is that, like, EOS Power Up right now is that and Gray Mass are the 2 things I hear mentioned everywhere. I'm stuck. I can't do anything. My EOS doesn't work. Blah, 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 everywhere. Telegram, Twitter, I see it everywhere. What are the 2 things they mentioned? Go to EOS Power Up and get Gray Mass Anchor. And that's where I think
absolutely
you can go on that strongly. And then also you can represent, let me tell you who was in the round I just won. You know, these are community members that helped launch the change for a long time, and they've all agreed that they want me to win. So if you agree with Eves and Han and Luke, you should let me win.
Yep.
That's the pitch that I would use.
I like that. That's good advice.
You gotta use this narrative that you have vouched from Eve, Luke, and Han. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those reasons, we all agree. We like the idea of someone who's put in a ton of sweat equity to demonstrate that the Eden process brings someone up because of their meritocracy, not because of their connections and relationships. And, the sweetening the pot is, as much as I love it, you're exactly right. You got to go where the money is. But at the same time,
there is a
we're doing that
downside though. There is a downside though, that you're running on the platform to fund yourself, right? So there's also then the same argument could be that we put Han up to run on the platform of all of us, because he's not getting anything out of this.
I've sacrificed so much, so I have no problem with telling people, like, I'm going to keep this money and pay myself to build this thing for you guys to use. And if you don't like that, then, that's fine.
It's a really good point, but I go back to what is the most important thing for the community right now, and to me, it's EOS Power Up and Gray Mass, like it's usability. And
I work with Aaron, like I'm constantly pinging Aaron. I've been battle testing his EOS.io library, which is a complete rewrite of EOS.js, and it's incredible.
It's awesome. I've been playing with it on the Theo side. I've been playing with it with EOS Link and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
So what would be the art counter? So instead of, let's say, putting Luke up or Han up, which would be neither of us, but running on both of the platforms, what will you say when people say, but you're still funding yourself? I'm just trying to, like, it's going to be asked.
I would say,
and somebody else in that group likely is going to be running on not funding themselves.
Yeah.
So how will we? Our chances if we want this platform to go up. So what's the best chance of this platform going up?
Let me say one thing. I just got a call that I have to remove my car right now. I gotta run to remove my car. I'm gonna come back. Before that, I'm gonna just say one thing. John, you are representing the dApps who's been suffering for a long time. dApps cannot be represented by BPs or me or Luke. Dan can be represented by dApps only. That's it.
I like it.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks a lot, Han. I really appreciate it. That's good advice. Eve, I mean, there's definitely a perception of like, oh, you're just going to pay yourself. And my answer to that is, I'm a developer and I'm actually building things that people can use every day. And in order to build things, someone has to write the code. Either I'm going to write the code or I'm going to hire someone else to do it. And hiring someone else, you're basically going to spend like 5 times more money to do that. So I can actually build it myself much more efficiently than basically anyone else probably could build it. And so it's a very efficient use of funds in order to pay me for my time to build this product, which helps to grow the EOS ecosystem.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate again. Is your product currently generating revenue? And if it's not, how are we ensured that you're still here in 3 months after we gave you 1,000 EOS?
So I actually track all the values on the back end. I can show you the dashboard. And right now the project is totally automated and totally self-sustaining. So the free power-ups, the cost of the free power-ups actually does not exceed the fees that I bring in each day. So,
but it doesn't pay you. How do we ensure that you keep getting paid from a product that you developed, right? The product is no good to me if you can't feed yourself. That was your first argument. So
yeah,
how are you ensuring that the business model that you created with EOS Power Up not only covers the operations, but the salaries?
So those are 2 different questions, I think, because when I view EOS Power Up as a public good and I intend to open source it. So for me to try and make it something that is going to pay me, is going to cover my billing or whatever for full time, that hasn't been a goal, but I totally know how to do that. And basically I've had a lot of high frequency traders come up to me and say that they need this feature or that feature. And I've had several of them actually say that they would pay double the fee, for me to add these features. So in the Telegram bot, for example, probably that would be like a premium subscription. So I have lots of ideas. Also, I have over 600 visitors to the site each day that I've been tracking to use the free power up. I can put a banner at the top of the site and sell that as advertising space. We can use it to highlight up and coming dApps in the ecosystem and things like that.
Good. I think you need to I think you need to push the fact that you're creating a business that's sustainable, including paying yourself. If you can't pay yourself, that's not sustainable. If in 3 months you have to leave for Ethereum or Binance Chain because it's no longer sustainable, that's useless to then give 1,000 EOS, right? So I would also say that.
Yeah, there is.
That you're building something that right now you're essentially giving all the money back in the platform to grow the platform, but that you're building it in a way that it will also ensure that you can continue building it.
I mean, I haven't really emphasized that because I think that people would be less likely to fund something if they feel like, oh, this is going to be a cash cow for this guy. So why should the community fund that?
I would say you're way on the spectrum over here. You're way on the spectrum of you've been literally starving to death.
Yeah.
And Eves is saying, look, you need to be fed, and you're concerned about being way over here. And oh no, this guy's just clearly.
Because what I want to make sure,
you've proven that, you've demonstrated that. If anyone thinks that, they're not rational and they're not intelligent. So
we don't need more EOS martyrs. There's plenty of EOS martyrs.
Yes.
What we need is the business that can say, in 6 months, if you give me the 1,000 EOS, I'm still here in 6 months because I've got a means to continue feeding myself outside of this 1,000 EOS.
Yeah.
And when I'm working towards that.
And
I mean, there is a little bit.
There's a confidence there and a leadership there that I think is also inspiring, that people want to hear. They want to hear honesty, not just like, I'm going to sacrifice, and then eventually blow up and be all mad and leave. Because that's what we've seen again and again.
Which is what everybody else has been doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's this idea of like, no, I
hear that.
I need to get fed. I'm not obviously going to run away and take all your money because clearly I've been doing this for free this whole time. But this is a shift in mindset that I think, thank you, Yves, is super important for EOS to rise up and be like, we are professionals running businesses and we get paid and we inspire investors to participate because of that. It's awesome.
I like it.
And on top of that, if you push me forward, Eve is going to add 1,000 EOS in the matching pool. That's just to sweeten the pot.
Yeah.
So okay, you really want me to tell them that?
And in the end, like you say that it can't be about just buying your way in, but it's not about buying your way in. If you don't make it to the top, you get 0. Those are the 2 choices, right?
Okay.
So you need to get to the top in order to be able to get funded yourself. What your idea is.
Let me get the
extra is the bonus.
Correct. Yeah, let me make sure okay. So basically, you're vouching for me, and not only are you vouching for me, but you want me to be elected so that I get funded, and you will add 1,000 EOS to the crowdfunding pool if I win. Yeah,
I'm gonna up the pressure. If you don't win, I won't, which means you need to perform. And then in terms of actual negotiating power at the next table, I would keep that chip until later on in the conversation. Don't start with the Eve's extra funding. Start with I was in a group with Han, Luke, and Eve, and they determined that it was best to send me forward. Here's my platform. You talk about Boyd, you talk about how it's sustainable, you talk about what you've done. You're a DApp representing other DApps. You're just a regular guy in the community that went against established leaders in the community, and they felt it was best for you to go forward. After you make all that pitch, and then they make their pitches and stuff, because they're going to try to win too, right? In the end, you sweeten the pot by saying, and on top of that, if you guys put me forward, Eve is going to match 1,000 EOS in his crowdfunding platform, which will then go towards whatever.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how much time we have left, but here's where you could then, we could break down that 1,000 EOS into more, right? In the sense that, for example, I don't know who's going to be at your table at the next table, but it could be a similar circumstance that somebody else has got a really good idea as to where they would spend the funds. We've got 8 minutes left. You could say, and I would give you that power if you wanted to, I'm okay with that, that 1,000 EOS that Eve is going to match, we can actually donate it to projects directly in the platform. So it could be that 500 EOS goes to the matching pool, and that 500 actually goes to whatever idea they have. And you're like, okay, so it's not adding money. It's seriously, it's just leverage the chances so that you can win, so that you can actually get what you want done. If you lose, none of this gets done, right? Including even just funding you.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I would give you the power to keep that chip for the very end as a negotiating chip, to then even break it down further if you wanted. And I would give you my trust to determine how best to use that 1,000 EOS, whether it's in the crowdfunding platform or elsewhere. But I would ask that there's a portion that goes in the matching pool, because I think that that's powerful. So that in the mock election, some EOS that was essentially created or gained was put in the crowdfunding platform in the end.
I mean, the message here is getting kind of complex. So help me simplify it down.
You can do it.
I mean, basically what you're saying is, if I get elected to the top, you're going to double what I get paid. Correct. And you hope that I put that in the crowdfunding pool, or you're suggesting that
you're being recorded right now. And so if you don't, you're never getting elected again. I think that's the idea with any of us. If we don't do what we say we're going to do. So I'm
just trying to make sure I understand what you're saying so that I can convey it in the next call.
So if you go forward,
you're going to double what I get paid.
I will double what you get paid.
Yeah.
The 1,000 that you get paid directly is your breakdown, is the 20% to gray mass, 5% for free transaction in the pool, and 75% to yourself, right? If you win, then I also match 1,000. What I'm saying is, instead of that 1,000, if you deem it best, I don't know what's going to happen in the next call. If you deem best that 1,000 EOS not be sent one chunk in the matching pool, but that it be, I don't know, 500 in the matching pool and 500 to convince one of the other 3 to fund their particular project, I'm okay with that too.
Okay,
you know
okay.
But I don't know what's going to come out of that.
I can use it as bargaining.
That chip. But I wouldn't start with that. In order to increase your chances of actually convincing other people, run on your platform alone, see where the room stands, and then add the chip at the very end if you need to.
You know, guys, I imagined a lot of scenarios for how these breakout rooms would turn out. I never imagined like being coached for how to win the next round. That was not something I predicted.
Well, we all lose if you lose, right?
Yeah,
We are now incentivized to see you win.
Yeah.
Nice. Crazy. Wow.
I would imagine you understand how Gitcoin works so that you can explain that part of what the matching pool is and how the crowdfunding platform will work, or do you have any questions? We've got like, I think 6 minutes.
No, I'm familiar with quadratic funding. The big picture is really that it allows people who have large communities but don't necessarily have large investors to raise funds, much more funds than they otherwise would.
Mm-hmm. I'm
going to get a glass of water before the next call, but did you guys want to go over anything else?
I was almost done typing up just my summary notes. I want to make sure that we got this like in writing in a way that could be helpful for you, hopefully. Available for projects in the last round. And then, okay, so I'm going to just post this in the chat as just,
sure.
I represent the dApps. That's the key thing. I think that's really powerful. Power Up and Gray Mass Anchor. And these are just my perspective. I'd love for you guys to add to it. The most important project right now for usability and adoption of EOS, you know, established leaders have vouched for me to win this. The reason they didn't push themselves forward is they wanted me to win. And the reason that's important is the process of Eden should represent that you don't need to be an established leader. You have to be a meritocratic leader, you know, all that type of stuff. And then as you said, you know, wait for the end is your trump card. You come in with, and also it's going to be
whenever.
Whenever it's appropriate. You know, you come in and say, he's already committed to this. You can watch the recording. And he's going to double.
He wins.
Yeah, but
right? So you're also putting it on them that if
you don't win, nothing happens.
You, no matching, right? So that's a key to get them to vote for you. The only thing I would change, Luke, is that it's not necessarily 500. It's 1,000 in the matching pool. What I'm saying is, if you deem it appropriate at that time to split that 1,000 into matching pool 500, and they plan on putting a project in the crowdfunding platform and that we donate directly to them. So So I wouldn't be sending 1,000 EOS tomorrow.
That's important.
In the platform.
Yeah. Okay, so you can still direct it.
It could be 1,000 in the pool, or it could be 500 to the project directly in the platform, and then 500 in the pool, or whatever
that's
breakdown
still
that you deem is best.
That'll still be like in September.
But that's in a couple months.
Yeah.
Correct.
Good. Okay, that's important detail. Yeah. All right. So John, how do you feel confidence-wise as far as your ability to represent this group of people that is, you know, really counting on you to win?
Yeah, I mean, I
I
feel,
like that.
I mean, my level of confidence is higher than when the call started. So
Awesome.
Awesome. Fantastic.
No.
All right.
Yeah,
Amy,
really
if you want to go with your
appreciate it.
recording, because I'm in Puerto Rico, my internet cut out a couple times, so mine will
Sure.
probably be not as good. So if you want to put your hash in there, that would probably be best.
Yep.
All right, let's. I guess we can end the call then.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to stop the recording here right now. Good. Everybody's okay with that?
Good.
Yeah, we're gonna go with John.
Awesome.
All right. Recording is stopped. And so when the meeting ends,